Hello and welcome. My name is Rashi Mogha and I'm your host for this Empowered Women of the World podcast. This podcast is for you, it is for me, and it is for all women who want to take charge of their career and happiness. In this weekly podcast, we'll talk about technology, we'll talk about leadership, and we'll talk about mindfulness. We'll talk about how you can discover, visualize, and actualize your success, whatever that means to you. We will also talk about our common opponent, the conscious and unconscious bias, which we deal with on daily basis, and we'll share ways to navigate work politics. At the end of each podcast, I'll share with you a tip or a resource that you can use to be successful. It's going to be a fun ride, so hop on and join me on this journey every week. This podcast is part 2 of our last week's podcast, Designing for Life. In the last podcast, we discussed how you can use design thinking concepts to design your life such that you're happy. Now, per the book Designing Your Life, this is essentially a 4-step process. Reset your mindsets, reframe your problems, prototype, and ask for help. We talked about resetting mindsets and reframing problems in the last podcast, so if you missed that episode, make sure to check it out. Now, today we'll talk about step 3 and 4, which are prototyping and asking for help. Now, what is prototyping? Prototyping is all about trying out various options that we think are possible solutions to our problems. And how do we find what our options are? Now, have you noticed that many times when you are unhappy, you feel like there's something missing in life, but you can't put your finger on it? There's this weird sense of emptiness. It has happened to me quite a few times. Now, to figure out how to redesign our life, it is important to know where we are today. And for prototyping our design for happy life, we'll have to start from now. Not from the past, not from where we were, but from where we are today. Now, if I think about my life as one big pizza, it can be divided into 4 equal slices: health, work, play, and love. And to design a happy life, we need to give equal attention to all these slices of our life. So, as a first step, let's see where we are on each one of these slices today. Now, health pertains to the wellness of mind, body, and soul. So, essentially, our physical health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. So, if I have to take my example, if I had to rate it on a 10-point scale, I would rate myself a 6 on health. I love where I am mentally and spiritually, but I need to work on the physical health. Definitely need to work on my physical health. Now, work is what you do, whether you get paid for it or not. So in my case, I work for Oracle, I get paid for it, but I also manage my website and develop Alexa skills to empower and inspire leaders like you. Now, that's all work, and I would rate myself a 10 on this one. This slice has my 100% attention. I just took on a new role as a cloud evangelism leader, and there's a lot of work that I need to do in terms of creating the plan for the year, sharpening my product knowledge, and so on. So this is definitely a 10 for me, getting my 100% attention. Play is what gives you joy. Now, being with the family, playing with kids, hanging out with friends, going to concerts, trying out new restaurants in my case, or doing things that genuinely make you happy, your hobbies that make you happy, that you do for happiness and not for work. So also for me to speak at Women in Tech events, mentoring and sponsoring women, hosting this podcast for you every week, it's not work for me, it's play for me. It gives me happiness. Just last evening, I spent about an hour talking to a new mother with some strategies on how to get back to work. The confidence that she had in her voice after our conversation it made me so happy. It gave me pure joy. So that's play for me. Now, cooking is also play for me. I love innovating and creating new healthy recipes for my kids so that I can help so that I can hide all those vegetables and power grains in their food, and they still find it tasty and acceptable and eat it without fussing. That gives me joy. I'm a solid 10 on this one too. Now, up until 2016 though, I gave almost no attention to my play life, and while I was giving all the attention to my work, not doing fun things was really making me feel unhappy, and it reflected, that unhappiness actually reflected in other areas of my life. So definitely 10 on play right now for me. Now love, that's the fourth slice. Love is what we share with our family and friends. And to most people, it is the relationship that they have with their spouses or significant others, their kids, and their families. And to keep the love going in our life, we need to give attention to our loved ones. We need to give attention to this love sector. And this is the area where I'm probably at a 2 right now. With most of my energy currently invested in work and play, I don't give enough attention to the love sector, and that's what I need to fix in my life. I can see that me not being able to give time to my kids or my husband and my parents is actually affecting my relationships, and it manifests itself in various ways, like, sometimes I would feel guilty about the work or my speaking engagements or giving time in mentoring and sponsoring, whereas what I'm actually unhappy about is not being able to find time for my family. And once I did this exercise, I knew that I had to fix my love sector. And that makes the problem much easier because now I can figure out some possible options to prototype. So now that we know where our scores are in these 4 sectors, the next step is to figure out our options. What would my ideal life be? Now, most people that I've spoken to have been unhappy at work. It's all about work. So if you are one of them, think what you would do if you did not have your current job. Come up with 3 different options, and I try to make these 3 different options completely different from what you're doing now. Now, this is a hard one. When I did this exercise for the first time, I thought I could do nothing beyond leading a training and enablement team, and I was stuck, and I didn't know how to move forward because I could not think of my 3 options. But then I came up with options like evangelism. So once you identify your options, the next step is to talk to people about it, maybe some practitioners, maybe look for small opportunities where you can test out your options. Like for me, when I thought about evangelism, I went back and talked to a few of my evangelist friends at Amazon Web Services and Microsoft and talked to them about what the role was like, right? And tried to figure out whether doing the things that were part of that evangelism role would make me happy or not. And then I tested it out. I tested it out by speaking at meetups, by connecting with the customers directly. And, so in your case, try to talk to as many people as possible. Definitely include practitioners and test it out. And once you like an option better than the other 2 options, find opportunities to move into that role. It took me a long time to realize that we don't have one life. We have many lives, and we can be happy and efficient in all these lives. We are not born to one career or one job role for the rest of our lives. And we also don't need to put the pressure on just one relationship, like a job or a friend or a spouse, to make us feel happy, to give us joy. Because when you put that pressure on just one relationship to provide you the joy of living, the relationship actually crumbles. No relationship can take that load. So try out your options 1, 2, and 3. Design your life for happiness. Don't get stuck with just one way of living life. Remember, there can be multiple right ways of living life, and each one of those ways can give you happiness. And for today's resource for you, it's a link to a book, Fast Track Your Leadership Career. The link is in the show notes below, so check it out and let me know if you find it useful. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for loving, liking, supporting, and sharing the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. I love your feedback emails and the messages, so please keep them coming. Our audience is growing exponentially each week, and we have a lot of requests for a lot of new topics, which is awesome. And we're going to cover those topics in the coming episodes. I look forward to seeing you again in our next podcast. Till then, keep empowering the world.